Hello there, Hacking Self-Storage listeners. I have just had an amazing chat with James Bonney from Bonney Self-Storage. I'm blown away with how much you can learn by talking to other people. And the great thing is that most people don't believe that they can learn something from every person they talk to, or don't believe that they've got something to share and give to somebody else, when they really do. Every single person, if we're just open to learning, there's so much gifts can come out of conversations. Today, I've thoroughly enjoyed this episode. The two things that stand out to me is that I've never even thought about Gumtree advertising. If I'm honest, I didn't even know what Gumtree advertising was. So James talks about that. And then we also talk about his two satellite sites. So he's got one main site and he's got two smaller satellite sites. And it's blown my mind. I'm genuinely excited now to get out there and think, holy shit, I can actually do this in Beverley, because Beverley's probably not busy enough for another self-storage, because that's what I was thinking. Well, I need 10,000 square foot. No, you don't. I don't need 10,000 square foot. I could do 1,000 square foot or 2,000 square foot. It probably needs another 30 or 40 units. We could use that. We could utilize it. And so now it's given me the belief that we can now open up a smaller satellite site in Beverley and take full, I don't know, just we can there's definitely quotes there. There's definitely business there in Beverley at the minute that we are not fulfilling. And so we can take full advantage of it. And so I wanted to thank James for that, because it just opens your mind to things that you don't normally see when you talk to other people. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I'm sure you guys are going to get something out of it as well. And don't forget, if anybody does want to come on the podcast, we're doing, I think we're booked up for 4 or 5 weeks. I feel like we've got episodes in the bag, but I love talking to people in this industry. And it doesn't matter how small you are, how big you are, or even if you haven't got any facilities yet, but you want to get into self-storage, I want to talk to you, because I know that I'm going to learn something, and other people are going to learn something from you as well. The mistake we all make in this industry is that we believe that it's a mature facility, a mature industry, but it's really not. It's not a mature industry at all. So people coming into the industry, people who have only been in the industry a couple of years, they can have insights that can help us. I know that I learn so much from other people that are even in the industry, and I can implement them into my business. And so if you do want to come on the podcast, get in contact with me, Dean Booty, B-O-O-T-Y, @iCloud.com. Love to hear from you. Genuinely enjoy it. And yeah, I'm sure you'll love this episode. James, thank you for your time. I loved talking to you, buddy. And yeah, here's the, shut up talking, Dean. Here's the episode. Speak to you soon. So James Bonney, thank you so much for coming on the Hacking Self-Storage podcast, buddy. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Listen every week. So, yeah, it's an honour to be on here.
Cheers, buddy. And so, James, if you just tell the listeners a bit about you, what you do in your storage business.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I'm James Bonney. I've got a company, Bonney Self-Storage. We're located in Penge, which, for anyone who's into football, is really close to Crystal Palace in South London. Basically, we've got one sort of main site that's, very small, 7,000 square foot. And then we have two mini sites that we have unmanned that we run from here, which are about 1,500 square foot each. So we've got about 10,000 in total, plans to expand as well. And yeah, basically I live in Kenley, which is sort of just on the edge of South London. Recently moved there with my girlfriend, Kerry. We've got a 10-month-old cockapoo called Rodney, who keeps us busy. No kids yet. But yeah, that's it really. I've been in storage for about just over 7 years now, I'd say, from when I first started building to where I am now. And yeah, hopefully be in it for the rest of my life.
Awesome. How close are your satellite sites, by the way?
Really close. So I'd say one of them is a 2-minute drive, and then the other one's probably another 2 minutes from there. So they're just a couple of roads away. So it's just easy. People down there just have their own fob, and they just use that for gaining access in and out. We monitor it on CCTV at our main site, and yeah, just sort of run it like that.
Is that because there was so much demand then, and you just couldn't deal with the demand at your bigger site?
Yes, it's a bit of a mixture. I mean, where we're in London, obviously there's so many people in close proximity, and loads of people living in small flats. A lot of them don't drive, and I was lucky really, because I originally started out working for my dad. He was doing sort of buy-to-let residential properties, and basically he had a couple of warehouses or like small storage areas that were spare. So I ended up converting them, renting the buildings from him. So it was just an opportunity where I thought, I've got the main site. These are so close, I can manage it all as one. So my costs are going to be minimal. Yeah, it was just something that worked. And it's surprising, like the parking's not great at these sites. One of them only has pay and display parking on the main road. But, you know, as I say, a lot of people don't drive around here, and just having that extra bit of space nearby, it seemed to work. It shows anything can work, really.
I love that. Yeah, it's interesting. So how did you actually get into storage then, James? Where did the idea come from?
So basically, I think I was about 19 at the time, and I was working basically for my dad on building sites, doing a bit of project management and just getting stuck in with the building work. And he ended up, through an old customer of his, collecting some old office furniture from an industrial unit. And one thing led to another. And there was a guy who'd been trying to sell the place for over 2 years, I think. Struggled to sell it, reduce the price, and I think my dad just had a gut feeling that he could buy it cheap. Brought the building cheap. I was sort of itching to earn more money because I was on a labourer's wage, really. Some of my friends started getting good jobs, stuff like that. So we tried to think of something that could set me up to sort of have my own business. And then one of the carpenters just mentioned, you know, there's Big Yellow was building nearby, Safe Store. There's all these self-storages going up. And then, as you know, the beauty of self-storage is you can basically work out how much space you got, work out what you can fit in there, and then work out, you know, as long as you let the units, what you can earn. So it was, it just went from there, basically.
Isn't it funny how we all fall into the industry? I don't think anybody plans or anybody goes through school thinking, yeah, do you know what, I'm going to set up a self-storage business. I mean, I was driving around America and just thought, hang about a minute, there's got to be something in this self-storage like. And that's how I got into it. What's the biggest change you've seen since when you opened then to now?
I'd probably say going down the route of automation, especially comparing it to where America's going, and like what you're doing with the sites you're opening, I think that it just makes sense in the long run, accelerated by COVID, that you may as well have automated sites, because it's a very simple business, basically. As we all know, it's, you know, a metal unit. People want to take their stuff, they store it there, take it out. So why not automate it in the long run?
Yeah, there's not a lot of moving parts, is there? I was trying to explain to my mates, and some of my friends want to get into self-storage now as well. And I said there's no real secret to it. There's not a lot of moving parts. You do the simple things right, and that's it. The rest looks after itself.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a funny one, because then some people think, what do you do all day? You must just sit there doing nothing. But there's so much backroom stuff you have to do, the admin, this and that. And I don't even bother going into details because there's so many things. But the actual main idea of the business is very simple. And I think we've still got loads of growth to come. You know, it's great industry all around. It's like renting residential places, but so much simpler and less things to go wrong.
Yeah. So how long have you actually been in self-storage now then? So you've been in self-storage. Sorry, how long have you been in for?
Yeah, so it's probably come up for 8 years, because basically it was 2013 when we brought this industrial unit, and then I basically had to knock down the rear of it, rebuild it double story. Basically, it was a lot of asbestos on this building, glass windows, all that sort of stuff. So I actually worked on it for about 2.5 years on and off, me and sort of 2 or 3 guys building it. And it's plenty of times I felt like giving up and quitting, because it just dragged on. I ran out of money a few times. But basically, I properly opened in November 2015, the main site, and opened one of the smaller sites around the same time. And then last year I opened the second sort of unmanned satellite site. And just been working through it. I mean, with me, everything takes a long time, but I get there in the end. So,
yeah. How are the satellites coming along? Are they doing well?
Great. Yeah. So one of them's 32 units there. One of them's 41 units. So basically ranging from lockers up to 50 square foot. And most of the time, you know, all 3 sites are normally over 90% full most of the time.
You know what? This is why I love doing this podcast, because before speaking to you, I would have never ever thought about doing a self-storage facility so small, like 30 odds. But it doesn't really matter, because obviously it's low rent, it's low rates, and it doesn't necessarily matter, because then it's the economies of scale where the costs are spread out because of your bigger business. So I would have never ever actually thought about it before.
Yeah, 100%. Because if you think, all of my expenses are covered by the main facility, we have to pay all that stuff anyway. So it's literally a bit of electric. Business rates are mostly free there anyway, and then just rent on the buildings. And then other than that, obviously I have the security that my dad owns a building, so I know I'm not going to get kicked out. But it's just, it's one of them, I can make it work. Obviously, a big company wouldn't be able to make it work because they'd have so much bigger expenses. But it's working for me now, and really I want to take the next step now and sort of build something bigger I can compete with the big guys. So, it's just money and stuff like that restricts you, but we're getting there.
We'll get to your expansion plans later on, because there's something I want to touch on there. But first of all, how has COVID affected your business, and has it been a positive?
I'd say overall definitely positive. I basically, a lot of the time we're hit near 100% full. We only have 180 units all together, so it's, it doesn't take much for us to be near capacity. But it's, through late summer was absolutely flat out packed, trying to line people up as soon as people were moving out. We had that all the way through. And normally in November and December time, we'd start getting quite a few move outs before Christmas. We had literally barely any move outs at all, stayed about 97, 98% full. And then it was probably just as we come into February, end of January, beginning of Feb, start getting a lot of move outs. Recently, we've had a lot. I think we're just under 90% full now, which obviously, for us, it's only maybe 15, 20 units, but percentage-wise, it's a big difference that we haven't had for a while. So I guess maybe COVID's delayed those move-outs happening. But in general, the business, I mean, so many more people using storage for businesses leaving premises and people, home improvements, all the usual stuff. So it's, I think long term, we're just going to keep growing, and we just need to keep expanding.
Yeah, talk about move outs. I mean, every person that I speak to had very few move outs during the fourth quarter. I, on the other hand, had absolutely loads, as I keep mentioning on the podcast. Today, I've just done a podcast about last week. I had 1,600 square foot move out last week. 1,600.
Wow.
Who has 1,600 square foot move out? I mean, luckily we had 100 square foot extra move in, but it's just unsustainable. Our chain rate is over 20%. I'm just like, on Saturday, I always get the reports, and literally on Saturday, when I got the report back, when Angela had finished work, I had 710 square foot move out in one day. It just, I know you shouldn't ever, it's like a business roller coaster.
That's 10% of my store.
I live it like a roller coaster, but literally, I was so like, I wouldn't say I was down, but I was. It did upset me having all that square foot move out. And I know you can't think of it short term; you got to think about it long term. But yeah, 710 square foot moved out Saturday, 1,600 square foot moved out overall. But as long as the quotes are still coming in, that's the main thing. Talking about quotes, where does the majority of your quotes come from, James?
Probably mostly comes from passing by, or a lot of people find us through Google Maps normally. So they're searching self-storage, go on the map function because they want it as close as possible, and then we'll pop up. I thought an interesting thing for your listeners is we don't actually spend anything on Google AdWords. We literally, our only marketing expense is sort of £9 a month on a Gumtree advert. Which does bring a fair few inquiries, so it's worth doing. Anyone who isn't on Gumtree, it's not always the ideal inquiries, but it brings them in. But it's where we've been open sort of 6 odd years now as well. We're starting to get quite a few returning customers, word of mouth recommendations, which, as you always say, it's normally the best type of customer because they're not coming to you over the price. They're coming to you because it's a good service. They know it's a quality product. So it's mostly down those sort of avenues for us.
Yeah, your site sounds a lot like ours at Beverley. We don't spend a penny on pay-per-clicks advertisements. SEO, we don't need to. We're top of the maps. We're top of the listings because we're Beverley Self-Storage. We're right in the middle of Beverley. I want to touch upon Gumtree then. I've never heard anybody say that. For those of people who don't know, I mean, I don't really know much about Gumtree. How does it work? What is it?
It's kind of like eBay, but it's pretty much free, and it's more location based sort of service, I suppose. And I only started using it because some family friends down in Essex were using their business in a container self storage site down there, and they said they let all their units through Gumtree. So literally, we just whatever unit we have a few available of, so say 20 square foot, so we put a post up, and explain the prices, blah blah blah, and then you just seem to get inquiries through it. It's mostly sort of a foreign base of customers normally who tend to use it, but for the sake of £8-9, as soon as you put a post up, you normally get a couple of calls. So I'd recommend it. It's even just to increase your inquiries. You will hear for a lot of the people in there are more price sensitive, I'd say, from my experience, but all inquiries are good, so it's definitely helps.
Do you know what, James? I'm gonna look into that as soon as we finish on this podcast. I'm gonna look into that. I think it's great. A cost of inquiry for me is like £27. So if I'm getting the inquiry, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about testing. It might not work for somebody because they might be more price sensitive, but you don't know unless you test. And so, I might as well give it a go, see what happens. And if we get more inquiries, if we get more leads, if we convert them, then it's definitely worth it. I mean, for the price of £7 to £9, whatever it is, then if we get a customer, our customers are worth over £1,000 every moving on average. So it's certainly worth a go. Do you do any special offers then?
Yeah, so we do, like most people, first 8 weeks half price. And then we offer, if you prepay for 6 months, 10% off, prepay for a year, 15% off. But basically, the reason we do it is just because, if Big Yellow and Safe Store and everyone else is offering it, then when people come to us, we're probably going to get questioned on it if we don't. So as everyone hopes, most of the customers plan for a month to 2 months and end up staying 6 months to a year. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of your website and prices, then you display your prices on your website, don't you?
Yeah, that's it. So, so when we first started, we was a lot cheaper than everyone around us because we want to fill it up, blah, blah, blah. Now we're not so much cheaper. But when I first started in self-storage, I didn't have a clue about it. I really just started from scratch researching it. And one thing that sort of really annoyed me was trying to get a price. You have to give over your name, address, email, a long process, and then you get called loads of times, you get loads of emails, blah, blah, blah. And I just sort of put myself in the position of the customer and thought, you really don't want to be harassed, especially in today's day and age. So in that sense, I just thought, we've got nothing to hide. This probably reduces the inquiries we get because they may see the price and be put off. And I suppose that means we miss out on an opportunity of persuading people. But the other side of it is I just think that's how people want to shop nowadays. They just want to see the prices and, and take things from there. So that's why we've gone that way.
You know what? I love the fact that you put yourself in the customer's shoes and thought, do you know what? That, when I was doing my research, that annoyed me. So therefore, I'm going to do it differently because I want to make it as easy as possible and less barriers for the customer to jump across as possible. We don't display prices on our website, and that's purely because we are the most expensive, way more expensive than Armadillo on purpose, by design. And so I do believe that we need the opportunity to convince the customers, because when they first ring up, they don't know what storage is. They just think storage is storage, and there's no way that one can be more valuable than the other. But I suppose for me, it's like hotels, that you get your 5-star hotels, you get your 1-star hotels, and there's price discrepancies along the way. And so I like the opportunity to talk to the customer and explain why we're different. But I do agree that it is annoying for the customer. And in 5-10 years time, when people know more about self-storage and it becomes more mainstream, I do think that people will be putting their prices online and not putting them behind any personal information or anything like that. So yeah, mate, kudos to you. Sorry, James.
Yeah, I was just going to say one quick thing on that, actually, is that, to be honest, if I was in your position with your Stormore facility, I would probably go down the same route as you, because like you say, you're offering premium product, you're offering free 24 hours access, all these extras, which are, massive, and that's why you should be priced higher. Whereas in our situation, we don't offer 24-hour access. Our site's super clean. We have loads of lights. It's really well lit. Units, I built them sort of myself, so really good construction there. But access, we only have a small yard with a couple of parking spaces. So stuff like that means that we're not as good as Safe Store and Big Yellow on those fronts. And, you know, I sort of price us accordingly, tending to be the same prices and we're a fraction cheaper. But it's a lot easier for me to put the prices online in that situation, whereas for you, like you say, you do need to educate the customer and it explains to them basically why you are better.
Yeah, do you know what? This is why I love this podcast as well, because you get discussions like this, and you when you were saying it, you hit the nail on the head. And when you I've actually wrote it down, putting yourself in the customer's shoes, and that's what I try to do all the time. Except in this circumstance, this is why I love the debate. I want to just quickly go on to reviews, and I know that you've got some really good reviews. How do you go about getting reviews? How do you request them from the customer?
So we should probably make a bigger effort, but basically when someone moves out, we'll send them a copy of their refund sheet showing them, you know, their deposit and any unused rent. And then we just sort of say, thanks for storing us. If you've got any feedback, good or bad, please let us know. And if you're able to leave us a Google review, please do so. And we just give them the link to Google. So we haven't got that many reviews considering the time we've been open. But yeah, we just seem to have got some really nice ones. Probably where we're more personal, smaller company, you know, they sort of get the family business vibe, and we probably have a closer relationship with the customers when they come in because there's a lot less of them.
Yeah, you've got 28 reviews on Google at the minute, and I think that you've got more reviews than most people, because most people don't actually look at it as a part of marketing or a part of it's important, but I really do. And obviously, when I was checking out and doing the research, I went on your Google reviews, and I went to worst to best kind of thing, and I saw a Google review from a 2-star person. It said deceiving with prices, but I absolutely loved your feedback. As soon as I read that, I thought, oh, you can just tell that he really cares, and I don't think that will ever harm you. I think that there shows. And you went through about your transparency with your prices. You put them online where most people don't. There's a deposit and a padlock, and it's just, you know, and you went into such detail, but you was nice, caring, considerate to the person. But ultimately, you got your price across because it was definitely an unfair comment. But I just love the way you went about that, buddy. So I just wanted to recognise that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so basically, I have to completely give the credit to my girlfriend for that, because you know how it is. Obviously, we're very emotionally attached to our businesses. But I actually, so the person who left that review, I went on their reviews, and I think they were just trying to get their stats up because they'd reviewed bus stops and they'd reviewed parks, they'd reviewed everything you can think of. They'd reviewed it basically. So they weren't a customer of ours. They must have just called or clicked on the website and then gone down that route. And but basically, yeah, like I say, my girlfriend obviously isn't emotionally attached as I am to the business. So I basically told her what I wanted to say, and she just reworded it in a much nicer way. So I recommend it anyone in a similar situation. And it adds, like you say, it makes it look like a real business. You can't have all 5 stars for life, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. And we're always going to get a bad review. It's not even a bad review, was it? But we're always going to get them. And it's so hard not to emotionally react. We got a 3-star review from somebody, and there was never a customer of ours. I went through and had a look at it. I went for the surname thinking it could be somebody related. And there was never a customer. And like yours, they went and they started talking about that it wasn't a particularly nice experience. I'm like, we've never even had you as a customer. How can you possibly comment on... And so your immediate reaction isn't always the best reaction. And I'll be exactly like you. And I need just to, I don't know, take a break, take 24 hours and then reply. So talking about your expansion, James, you've acquired a bit of land in Kent, haven't you? How's that going?
Yeah, it's unfortunately not that much progress at the moment. But basically, I brought it from auction, and it was an entire business park. So there's sort of 30 units on it. But basically, 29 of these industrial units have been sold off. It was originally owned by the council. So there was just one industrial unit, a piece of land, and this freehold. So all the other 29 that had been sold off are basically worthless. But it was going into auction all as one, and basically I just wanted the bit of land, but the only way to buy it was to sort of bid on the lot. And I brought it really cheap. I mean, it's a cheaper area. It's down in Ramsgate, down near the coast in Kent, but it just seemed so cheap. And the fact that it was on a business park, it previously had planning permission for an office block there, which was never built for some reason. So I just thought, surely they want something built on it. And basically, I brought it at auction, didn't have all the money, had a broker at the time who said, oh, you'll get finance, it'll be a doddle. Basically, I brought it, and because of all the extra units, I didn't get finance. So it was probably the most stressful couple of weeks of my life, because I basically had to borrow money off all family and friends. I borrowed 10 grand off one, 20 grand off another, and literally I borrowed 250 grand off family and friends. It was unbelievable. Like, all of them helping me out. It was literally, it's something to be proud of in a way, that they all sort of come to my aid. And yeah, basically got the land, paid them all back. So that sort of delayed me for a year, because I had to get the money from different sources to sort of pay them back. And yeah, basically come with a load of complications as well, because it's got an overage deed on the land. So whatever I get planning permission for, I have to pay them, the council, 25% of the uplift in value, a few different things that have sort of set me back. But I still think I brought it really cheap. And basically, the situation I'm at now is the one industrial unit on there I do own, I need to separate from the title, because I need to get finance on that to build on the land. So that's another thing which trying to deal with the council was, everyone probably knows, can be a real hardship. And it's literally next week we should complete the transfer, after probably a year of trying to do it. And then from there, I basically obviously need to go for planning. I'm hoping to build something potentially as big as 60,000 square foot. If I end up getting 30,000 square foot, I'd still be happy. I'm going to aim big, and, wherever I end up, I'll be happy with it. But I was thinking sort of 20,000 square foot and having 3 floors. Yeah, so I just need to get moving with it. But I'm coming from somewhere where I'm not really sure how to go about getting finance. I've actually signed up for a new storage association course they're running in a few weeks. So hopefully I'll learn some bits there, and just really need to just get going with it. And it's going to be a big challenge, but if I can get it finished, then hopefully I'm competing with the big boys then, and can crack on a lot quicker and expand from there.
Oh, I'd say that sounds really, really exciting. Next couple of years, whatever you're going to do with that. I mean, I just wrote down here some family and friends you've got to lend that money. That's testament to you, though, because they must trust you. They must trust that, they must know they're going to get it back. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I think that you're speaking to the converted here, because every single person in storage wants to expand. But the problem is that stopping them is the finance. How do we get the finance? Where do we go to get the finance? And obviously I always say to everybody, storage will never, ever get you rich overnight, but it will always get you rich long term. And the one thing that when I was opening Stormore, one thing I didn't truly appreciate was how much runway of cash that I would need, how much burn I would go through, how much cash I would burn. And because we was paying back £15,000, or we still are, £15,000 a month on loans. And when you first open, you've got no money coming in. So it's really, really difficult to get that money. And so, yeah, I think this could be fantastic. Have you got any sort of aims in mind when you want to open?
So basically, I'd like to be open in 18 months' time. But my initial steps now are to go for planning permission, which I think could be a 6-month process, and sort out the financing, which I was hoping to remortgage a few places, and my dad was going to remortgage some places and lend me some money as well. Was hoping to be able to build the shell, finance the building, and then crack on from there, kitting it out. But I need to get things in line really, and but basically, if I could be open in 18 months, that would be great. I know I've got a good sort of 2-3 years of getting it up to a good level. Like you say, I need to be prepared for when there is no customers in there and getting by until we actually get past break-even point. But yeah, it's starting to get my teeth stuck into anyway, and we get there in the end, I'm sure.
Yeah, and one thing that I promised my wife I'd never do again with Stormore was I give a personal guarantee. And so if anything goes wrong, that means I take the house, take everything. And I nearly lost my new site because I promised the wife I wouldn't do a personal guarantee ever again. And then so the new landlord who's building this new fantastic looking new build for us down Clough Road in Hull, he said that he wanted a personal guarantee. He wasn't going to do it unless we give him a personal guarantee. And I was like, oh no, there's the opportunity there. But then the wife is here and I'm going to get, she's going to absolutely go mad. And I explained the situation to the guys. I said, look, I really want it. I believe in it, but you're probably going to get me divorced if I go down this route. And luckily, he's accepted that we don't need a personal guarantee anymore. Talking about reports, what key performance indicators do you look at? What do you focus on? What do you concentrate on? What's most important to you?
Well, I always keep an eye on occupancy because I know that if we're dropping below 90%, then we need to look into things, increase our inquiries, maybe try out a few local marketing ideas. But I probably need to up my report game because I'm not looking into it nowhere near enough, nowhere like the level you are, checking the figures. Yeah, well, maybe, but you really do know the figures inside out. But I mean, it's a bit easier for me at the moment because we're so small. You just have a feel. You know if things are going well. You know if they're not. But I need to actually think, right, if we're going to open this new site, I need to systemize more. I need to be able to take a proper overview. And so, yeah, it's something I need to up my game on, basically.
Yeah, systemizing, that's what we're doing. We're trying to, I'm a great believer in that if you do something more than once, then you want to automate it. So at the minute we're getting the software company to actually, all the reports, like the weekly reports that they do, but the team must absolutely go mad thinking, oh God, weekly reports again, I've got to send Dean everything. And so it's cost us £1,000, but it's going to be automated. So because we do it every single day, nothing changes. And so they should be able to pull the reports that I need straight away. As soon as the computer's turned off, then it should be sent to me direct. So it's just taking a little bit of time. But yeah, I'm a great believer in systematizing things and try to keeping things as simple as possible. I've just got 2 more questions for you then, James. If a storage owner asked you one bit of advice from all the lessons you've learned so far, what would it be?
I would say to take action and do it because like all of my sites, there's things that aren't great there. The access isn't great. There's not much parking, but it's worked at every site. So at the end of the day, sometimes I get caught doing it myself. You plan and plan, you think about this, you think about that. But if you just make a start, you're never going to be perfect from the beginning, but you'll eventually get there. And as long as you run a good business, then the location's right, then you're going to fill it up and it'll be successful.
Yeah, and it's a learning curve as well. There's so many people now listening to this podcast because I've gone on a couple of property podcasts and commercial real estate podcasts, and they're looking at getting in the industry. And I'm so bullish about the industry. I think it's at the early stages right now, and you're going to look back in 10 years' time and think, do you know what? I could. It's like it's not as bad as this, but it's like when somebody missed out on investing in Facebook. I truly believe that this industry is going to be growing for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And everybody always, I speak to always says, I wish I'd got in storage earlier, but I still think this is the early time. And I speak to so many different facility owners. And right now people are complaining about, there's more competition than ever before. I think completely opposite. I think that if you think in another 5, 10 years, the competition is going to be huge. There's going to be so much more. I think now is the time to take action. I really do believe that if anybody's thinking about getting in self-storage, you've just got to do it because it's a fantastic industry. There's not a lot of moving parts. It's very, very easy to run and manage. It really is a gift that keeps on giving. And I feel so lucky and blessed that I fell into this industry. And I think that it'll continue to be very, very fruitful for people. Talking about the future, the last question from me is, what do you expect in 2021? Do you think it's going to continue being a bumper year, or do you think COVID's going to catch up with us?
I think we'll still continue to do well, even if we have a few move outs in the short term. I think by the end of the year, we should be strong again and filling up, because I just think the way the world's going, the flexibility of self-storage can't be underestimated. It's so flexible, especially for a business. And you see people taking shops on 5-year leases, 10-year leases or more, and they're tied in massively. Whereas self-storage, you can take it, you can leave after a week. You can go up, you can go down, you can do whatever you want. And it's just perfect for every growing business, individual people. It's got so many uses. So I do think there might be. I mean, we've both had a few move outs recently, but I think in the long term, it's just, as they say, it's recession resistant, and yeah, it'll just keep pulling on through. And in the long run, I do look at the American market quite a bit, and even though it will never be quite the same, you see how developed it is over there, and the situation they're in, and we've got so much more growing to do. It's crazy.
It really is exciting. So I've got the 5 questions for fun round for you. So here we go. What's the best advice you have ever received?
So something my granddad's always said to me is buy cheap, buy twice, which I think does ring true quite often.
Yeah, I always say that to my girlfriend, my wife, all the time. Yeah, my girlfriend, my wife. I do think that's so true. What's a daily habit that contributes to your success?
I'd say getting up early and exercising in the morning, ideally, just keeps you ticking over and gets the hardest part of the day out of the way.
Yeah, and recommend one book.
So as we're a self-storage podcast, I would say AJ Osborne's Growing Wealth in Self-Storage. Again, obviously it's, aimed for the American market, so a lot of it doesn't transfer over to us here. But I just think the way he explains storage and, the whole way it works and how it can expand is really interesting stuff. I
interviewed him last week on the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I love AJ. I absolutely love him. I'm a massive football fan, and I was in America at the conference maybe 3 years or 4 years ago, and his session, I looked at it and thought, yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna go into his session, and but it was Man City versus Liverpool, and I thought I'm only going to stay for 10 minutes because at the time Man City versus Liverpool was kicking off, and I thought, this is a perfect time, but I can just sit in the bar, have a few beers on my own because my family was over there as well, the wife, the kids, the mum, dad, and I couldn't leave because it was such a compelling presentation he did, and I bought him a bottle of champagne after that, and I said, look, you've changed my life, and ever since then I've kept in contact with him. And the reason I bring it up is because I was interviewing him, and we've just had internet put into my new office man cave, and the internet was playing up, and there's like spells of 15 seconds where it just goes dead, where I can't hear him, he can't hear me. But I just love talking to him because he knows so much about self-storage. And that book, I call it the Bible of self-storage. I think it's for everybody out there. So what scares you, James?
What scares me? Probably not being a success in business. Not taking, like you say, the opportunity that we've got in self-storage now. I don't want to miss the boat and take too long and then sort of get muscled out or just miss out, because there's a potential to build something big. And just family. I love my family, my girlfriend, and just anything happening to them is obviously scary, but you don't think about it.
Yeah. So living up to your potential, yeah. If I asked your 5 closest friends what your superpower is, what do you think they would say?
Yeah, so this was a bit of a tricky one. I would have said maybe being persistent, even with problems, in the long run, just getting there in the end. Well, even if it takes me 5 times as long as everyone else, I do get there in the end. But my colleague Tracy, I've worked with since pretty much day dot. She thinks probably juggling different jobs and multitasking and keeping everything balanced and keeping going.
Yeah, James, I've absolutely loved talking to you, buddy. Thank you so much. If anybody wanted to find out more about you and Bonnie Self Storage, where would they go, buddy?
So we've literally just had our new website put up yesterday. So that's bonniestorage.co.uk. And then you can email me, James at Bonnie Storage, so BONNYS storage.co.uk. I'm not that active on social media, but I'm on Instagram at JSBonnie. Feel free to get in touch on there. And LinkedIn I don't really use, but I'm going to start from now. So just James Bonnie on LinkedIn.
Right, we'll put all them links in the show notes, and just thank you for coming on, buddy. Thanks for your time. I've genuinely took a bucket load of notes, buddy. I've learnt a lot, so I appreciate it.
No, great. Thanks, Dean. And like I say, thanks for you doing the podcast. It's given so much information, to me and probably loads of listeners. And I've increased my revenue. I've improved my business, and just keep it up because it's great. The guests are great, and love it.
Oh, that is awesome. Thanks, buddy.